update on the ute. I've got a list here because I can't remember everything. I've done the exhaust. Sounds pretty good. Took a while though for it to burn in and sound nice. And then went through all the issues with it overheating. So what I've done is, first thing I did was I flushed the radiator, then took it for a spin, and still overheating. Not as bad, but still overheating. Not a lot of crap came out of the radiator anyway, so it made me know straight away pretty much that it's not a blocked radiator. So we'll get rid of that out of the equation. And then I pressure tested the cooling system and found out that there was a couple of leaks here and there, one at the thermostat housing, and then a couple of hoses here and there where the clamps were a bit loose and they were weeping. So I figured that obviously it was pushing coolant out and then getting air in the system, and then obviously it's just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. Took it for a spin, and then obviously it wasn't that either. So then I thought that maybe the turbo feed was the issue, like the coolant feed for the turbo, because I had it coming out of the bypass in the top of the radiator into the turbo and then into the expansion bottle. So what I've done there is I've just fed it into the heater with the brass T-pieces. And then took it for a spin, and obviously it was still cooking its brains out then. I know what the problem was, I said what the problem was, but anyway, process of elimination. And then I did a combustion leak test, which pretty much just tells you when you've got fuel vapor in the cooling system, which there's only one way that's going to happen, is if it's either got a blown head gasket or a cracked head at a water jacket and it's weeping coolant into the engine or pushing compression into the cooling system, whatever way you want to look at it. And it failed that, so there you go. We were right the first time with the first things we said were wrong with it. It's definitely a blown head gasket or a cracked head. I'd say more likely blown head gasket, but without knowing what it looks like, it's hard to tell. So it's a case of pull the head off, see if you can find the blown part of the head gasket, and then get the head tested and all of that. But as I said in the previous video, I had no intentions of doing that with that engine because I wanted it running, and that engine's got blow-by. So we'll forget about that. But what we're going to do is I've got another engine to put in it out of a ED Falcon, and hopefully it'll be alright. It's got no blow-by. It looks like it's had the head done recently. It's had a pretty easy life. Around about the same amount of Ks. The Ute's done 315,000, but this ED's done 295,000, but the trip meter doesn't work. Well, the odometer doesn't work, so it's done 295,000 probably 10 years ago, to be honest with you, but it's hard to tell. So that'll go in while the engine that's in it now will come out and get a birthday, pending the condition of obviously the crank and all of that and the bores, and but it's just going to end up pretty much with the clearances checked and possibly a crank grind, bearings, a hone, new rings, gapped for boost, and then obviously all the stuff that it should have, head studs and MLS gasket, valve springs, pretty much all of that. But the issue with this ED engine is it needs all the engine mounts because they're different, all the accessories, another water pump, because on the ED they've got a 3 PK belt that runs the water pump and the alternator, so that's all going to have to be changed, water pump, alternator, to the XH1, which is the later EF style serpentine belt for the whole lot, runs the power steering, everything, with just a tensioner with a 6 PK belt, so that's all going to have to be swapped, engine mounts, and then I've got to redo the turbo feed. I've got to swap the sump, but this time I'm getting the one-piece gasket because I think the silicone I used when we did the sump gasket the first time, when we put the oil drain in, there was something wrong with that silicone and it never dried or anything like that, even though I did it and then left it for about a week because I had other things going on. So I'm going to get a one-piece gasket. So there's minimal silicone, obviously on the tight corners, you've got to put some on there. and swap the clutch and everything over, things like that. So that's going to take a bit of time. I put Chemi Weld in it just to see if we get a bit of driving time out of it, and it seemed to have worked for a while. I've chucked a couple thousand Ks on it, and it only gets to about halfway and then a little bit more on top, unless you're giving it a hard time. You've got to have the heater going and everything, which is a pain in the ass. Luckily, it's cold here at the moment. So yeah, it's quite fun, really. Excuse me. Good fun to drive. Quite exciting considering it's untuned and it's only on 6 PSI boost and it doesn't have the fuel to match. I've got fuel pumps and injectors, and here's the injectors. They're 650cc and there's a 210 litre per hour fuel pump. It's in the shed. And then I've got the boost reference adjustable pressure regulator, which is in the van at the moment, which I'm just going to use that. And then, yeah, it's more than likely going to end up with a J3. I was looking into a Haltech 750, but the Haltech 750 is $1,650 just for the computer. Then you've got to get a patch loom, and the patch loom is $600. And it's like, do I just make one myself? And I'm not really clued up with wiring, and it's a bit of a pain in the bum. But yeah, it's just going to end up at the moment with a J3 with the air-fuel ratio gauge on it. And I'm going to get the tuning soft, like, box, so we can fiddle around with it if need be and add more fuel or take fuel out of it or whatever. Then I'm going to obviously do the timing on it, do the plug gaps. But yeah, I had to write a list because I've done heaps of shit to it and haven't filmed it. I pulled the engine out of the ED but didn't film that because I'm pretty sure no one wants to see me pulling an engine out of a shit box. I had to cut the front and everything off just to make life easier. But I've got that. I haven't been able to do anything in the last 2 days because we've had just nothing but rain. It's still raining out there now, and it's not forecasted to stop for the next couple of days from memory. So, and my shed is currently taken up, the hoist and everything, by a broken down van. So, and that's on the hoist, so I can't take it off and push it out because, for one, I wouldn't be able to get it back in on my own because it's a big van and it only just fits in there and it's got no head on it and all of that crap. But I'm trying to get a nice day where I can rip the engine out of the ute and then start swapping stuff over. I've got to get an engine stand because Brenton's 1 tonner 5 litre is on the engine stand, the only one I've got. So there's just a few bits and pieces I've got to sort out. Water pump, as I said before, a 1-piece sump gasket, couple of other bits and pieces. But yeah, it's good fun. There's a couple of little snippets coming up in the video you'll see of us driving it, and yeah, it's good fun. I've welded the diff too, so it can get quite exciting. Did I say clutch? Did a clutch on it too. It's got a ceramic button clutch in it, 650 Newton meter clutch. So it's, yeah, no clutch slip now, and it can handle the power. But yeah, I don't think it'll be 650 Newton meters when it's tuned, because the idea is we want 10 to 12 PSI. So it's going to be quite stout considering it's on half that now untuned without the fuel to match, and it's quite exciting. But anyway, here's the snippet of Brenton driving it. Now it's all sorted. Well, what's the verdict? Is it better?
Oh yeah.
Now it's got a welded, stupid welded diff. Hear it? Sounds weird over this side.
Seems better. Everything we do makes it better and better. It's towy. It's quicker than I thought it'd be.
Wondered if it'd ever do that.
Yeah, fucking gee, I told you. I was ready for it though.
It has that feeling when you drive it that it's always going to fucking try and do that to you. That's why I said
it'll
to
throw
you,
you off the road.
Fucking dangerous.
I told you that. That's what I said. Yeah.
I was looking at the camera and I felt that in my ass.
I saw the camera.
I didn't see it, I just felt it.